Hi there. I am Mike Bankhead, your host, bass player and songwriter from Dayton, Ohio. In today's episode, we go to Texas. I talk to a resident of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, a fine gentleman named Josh Bradford. He is an accomplished piano player. For you musicians out there, I think you're going to especially love the music nerdery we get into on this episode. If you don't play music, stick around. I still think you'll like this. This conversation went some places that neither of us thought it would go, but that's kind of what happens when you're just having a good time talking about interesting things. Let's get to it. Here's Josh. Hey there, Josh. Welcome.
Well, hey, Mike.
I'm sorry for going straight to like announcer voice. That was probably not good.
No, that's fine. I get it. I totally get it.
Hey, for the listener, Josh and I were having a very nice conversation. And since I don't want to keep him here all day, I figured we'd probably better hit the record button and get to talking. So I met you in Austin.
Yes, you did.
In your state of residence.
Yes, you did. At CD Baby Conference.
At the CD Baby Conference.
Mm-hmm.
And now we are both members of the Musician Mastermind. So we get to see each other online every now and then.
Very little, but yes.
So more than not.
We are not in the same little group, but we are still part of the big group together.
Yes, that is correct. And instead of me telling people what you do, how about you tell us all what you do?
Hey, I'm Josh Bradford, and currently I am in a sort of life shift. I consider myself, I'm kind of moving away from the label of just musician or just educator, and I tend to like the term artist. And I tend to like the term creative, meaning that I'm not limiting myself to any one medium anymore. Currently, I am a full-time elementary music teacher in the Metroplex in Texas. That's the DFW area. One of the reasons why the label musician got dropped real fast was the first project that I took on over COVID was a film project that I didn't know I was going to be doing. And so that led me into I'm a filmmaker. Like, I'm still using music that I've done with the previous program, and I'm still doing that, but we're making a 90-minute, performance installation experience and trying to do it online. And it was like, okay, I've gone into a whole other realm. So I'm a day job music teacher. I'm moving out of that by the end of next school year. And I'm going to be moving my way back into the creative in a very non-linear fashion.
When you said not limiting yourself to any one medium, I was going to ask a follow-up question, and now I don't have to because you explained it. Would you like to tell me more about that film?
Oh, well, it was a film based off of a performance. I called it a performance art concert. I don't like the term multimedia concert because I've seen symphonies start using that, and it just comes off as like really, really like bland. Whereas if you're creating a performance art event, it feels more interactive, and it feels like you're agreeing to be a part of an experience. And so I had decided to go ahead, and I believe it was 2013. And Trayvon Martin had been murdered. And I remember being affected by that, but also at the same time being very, very affected during what I knew was an end of a relationship. And what I knew was it was just a really, really challenging thing. And I turned to meditation, and I just thought, wouldn't this be an interesting concept for a performance? And so I approached a local Texas music venue if they would be willing to go ahead, since they kind of host art and music events on the same site. Could we use this one space and just go ahead and do like a live painting event and showing film on their walls and like having the piano in the middle of the theater space? It was really, really, it was fascinating to take something that's meant to be experienced in a three-dimensional like space where the audience members, like, you kind of decide when you take a break, the show doesn't stop. How do you make something that's a live event and turn that experience into something that is meant for online. And one of the great things that my editor and I talked about was paying attention. Do you remember where people's eyes were going? And that became part of how the editing was driven, and that became part of like how we kind of approached how much you see me playing, when do we need to show this and that and the other. The work has always been called Meditations, but there's always a different subtitle, and this online version was literally the subtitle was called Yield to the Fire, Say Their Names. And Yield to the Fire was because this same music was used as a yoga driven guided meditation with my then partner. And then Say Their Names came because of the George Floyd, which it's interesting because, again, meditation started when I realized it's like every time I am doing this concert, another Black man's gotten killed. And we're just finding more. And it's just like, okay, that seems to be a going theme with this particular event, unfortunately. It's not ironic. It's pathetic. But at the same time, it's like, well, we use that pathos and we make something out of it. I mean, that's what artists have done for thousands of years, is we take that pathos and we turn it into something.
Yeah.
That's where tragedy comes from, you know? So
writing through one's pain is a time-honored tactic of the songwriter.
Well, except for those of us that can't write through our pain, we have to experience our pain first and then look back on it. And that was kind of like that's the only way that I can work. I have to ride the wave of pain before I can actually look back on it objectively enough to be able to go, okay, now I can dig into my brain.
That is a point of view that I've not considered. So I like that.
I have tried writing through pain. It doesn't work. It's not a method that works for me. What I need to do when I'm in pain is I need to listen to other people express their pain, or I need to not hear pain at all and just hear like nonsense. Like, so one of my favorite things to do through the COVID pandemic, I became a big fan of escaping through experimental film and I became a big fan of especially like animation, not made for kids, but animation that's made for just the art of watching pictures move, whatever means you do to do that. And then I also became a big fan of listening to lots of drone music, which is, again, the fact that I'm doing that and then I'm going to do an online version of meditations. It's like, actually, this wasn't too far of a stretch considering what I already like. You know, the stuff was already there. I just needed to find a collaborator to like bring the pieces together. But that's kind of what led from I have 4 jobs I thought I could do, and now I realize that there's over 20.
Okay.
That's empowering. That's empowering to know that, oh, I'm not stuck at all. So, and I'd be happy doing any one of these 20 things. But the piano is always going to be, I think I'm still going to always want to make piano playing a part of that. There's something very special about the piano.
And I didn't even have to prompt you to go there, because I was going to mention that you briefly alluded to cameras being on you as you played the piano during the film. So the question was going to be, oh, is that your main instrument? And you've just answered that.
It is. I started playing piano really as I thought that I was, when I was younger, Billy Joel, Elton John, like I was going to be like another one of them. And the whole reason I picked up piano was the same reason that I saw my dad pick up a guitar. It was, I'm going to be a songwriter, and I'm going to sing songs, or I'm going to cover songs, and I'm going to play all this music and sing all this music, and I'm going to have my own band and blah, blah, blah. I mean, this was stuff I was thinking since I was 6 years old. But what's very, very funny is that my very, very, very first recording that I made at 6 years old, ooh, talk about like this odd child. Like, I decided that the minor second, like lovely notes that are right next to each other, that dissonance. Oh my God. Like for 8.5 minute stretches on this tape, it's just like nothing but like minor seconds. And by the way, this was on a keyboard that I could only play 2 notes at a time. Like I couldn't even make a chord on. So imagine those limitations. And I'm just sitting here like I still it's actually I'm actually going to be releasing like little bits of this for a crowdfunder that I'm going to be doing if people decide to do that. But I think I love bringing up the story. It's like it's funny that I wanted to be Billy Joel and Elton John, and yet I was also the kid that also liked, oh my gosh, give me those horror sounding noises. Like I loved the Dark Shadows soundtracks. I loved sci-fi soundtracks. I loved anything that was like, ooh, what's that sound? Let's
Dissonance.
do that. I drove my mom nuts. Oh my God. Drove my mom nuts with what I thought was beautiful, you know.
Dissonance is beautiful. It can be.
I think it is. I mean, without dissonance, you don't have resolve.
Yes.
And sometimes there is no resolve, and that's what makes it wonderful.
That's a fun thing to do to people.
The dissonance.
As a songwriter, that's a fun thing to do to people. It's when they expect a resolve and you just don't.
Well, I didn't give a resolve this morning. I actually sang Leonard Cohen's anthem for starting off a service this morning, since it was all about justice. And yeah, I left it unresolved. That's where the light gets in. It's a D flat. It's for all you music nerds out there. The song's in D flat, and I end it on A flat 7. You want to end it so bad. It's like, nope. We're going to start service now. That's the resolve. The pastor's going to start preaching. That's the resolve. I'm not going to give it to you. Nope. The stuff that I make right now, one of my favorite games to play during a concert is I create, an audience member is brought up and we create a piece together based on a series of cards that they have to play. It's a card game that they play with me. And what inspired this was there was this Netflix episode, not Netflix, TED Talk episode, TED Talk. There was a TED Talk episode of this classical pianist who she had these letters, like the 7 letters of the musical scale, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all in a hat. And then, somebody from the audience just picked a letter, and then she creates this whole other piece around that one letter. And I'm like, bull crap. Because I was sitting there like, it still sounds like Chopin in B. Like you didn't do anything. You didn't actually set up any parameters over how compositions actually get made. I was like, nope, if I do this, I'm doing this right. And so my audiences have to literally step through a process. And sometimes it's sometimes a 5-minute process that just to get to the decision making. And then what I have to do on stage is write, like, with no preparation. Here's my cards. Now I make a 3 to 5 minute piece out of this.
The non-musicians out there probably don't get that. I get it. And all of our music nerd friends who are going to listen to this will get it.
The idea that a note is what drives a whole piece, that's because what drives a piece is rhythm. What drives a piece is how do you want to organize those sounds? What's the form that you want to do? What's the speed you want to take? How long do you want this piece? I mean, there are lots of specifications that we have when we accept commissions. There's lots of specifications that you have to do when you're working in other mediums. And I just don't like this concept that musicians go out there and sell the idea that, oh yeah, anyone can do this. It's like anyone can, as long as you've got some skills. I was really disappointed that TED Talks didn't go deeper, and they've never had another episode that approached that. I've always kind of wanted to be that person that walks on TED Talks and says, I want to follow this up. Except she was a Chinese woman, and I don't want to feel like I'm putting down a Chinese pianist in doing this. I just want to bring up the whole aspect of what is improv, what is creation,
right?
What were the parameters that we're looking at, and what is it in a musician's mind that they have to think about while they're creating? And I think it'd be interesting to watch that process. It's always fascinating to watch audiences react to it, whether they're 5 years old or whether they're, up to 80. It's always fun to see this playtime,
It's not like what you described doesn't take skill. However, you said it's like playing Chopin and B. The skill set is either one, remember a piece that you've already learned in that key, or two, be really good at transposing. And if you know your instrument and you know enough theory, you should be really good at transposing.
Or three, you learn how to just take a sound and just let that be and then build on that. One of the things that makes my game more, I think, interactive and more fun is that I have no idea what notes you're going to give me. I have no idea what form I'm going to get. I mean, I have some parameters, but I mean, at any point in the game too, the person that says it, once they realize, it's like, well, my option really isn't here. And I was like, if they have a different picture in their mind, or they have a different thing in their mind and they can express that, I'm like, sure. This comes from the fact that when I sit down at the piano for fun, when I sit down at the piano and I'm needing therapy, a lot of the times the way that therapy is created is whatever sound, like I would just literally put my hand on the piano blindly, and whatever sound comes out, that becomes the germ, that becomes like the little, I do call it the germ. It's like the little cell, and we just grow from that. I love dissonance. So I love it when somebody says, I don't want to do a scale, I don't want to do a scale. I want to do random notes. It's like, oh yes, So
Oh, my mind is just, you know what I want to do? I want to give you a composition assignment, and then later, whenever you finish, you send it back to me and I drop it in the podcast to see. We won't be able to comment on it afterwards because we're going to finish the conversation today. But I think that'd make for a fantastic experiment. What do you think? You up for that challenge? Like if I just randomly give you some parameters off the top of my head.
Yeah.
All right.
Why not?
And in order to make this actually challenging for you, what kind of time limit would you constrain yourself to doing this in?
For something like a podcast, it'd be 2 to 4 minutes. Cool. I wouldn't want to go beyond that.
Right. Yeah. Now I'm not saying not just the length of the composition, but how long to actually come up with the idea and build it out.
Honey, when I do this live,
you just do it on the fly. Oh, okay.
I do it on the fly. Like it literally is a game that I have cards and I set it up.
I should have processed that better. That is awesome.
But it comes from years, and we were talking about 6 years old, right?
Yeah.
It comes from the fact that I learned what a minor second sounds like, and then I listen, and then when I got into college, I started loving the work of Steve Reich and Philip Glass and Terry Riley and Lamont Young and then Ligeti and all these people that loved to take sounds. Not to mention Bernard Herrmann from the Hollywood world, and how his Psycho soundtrack is just unbelievable. Again, it's just realizing it's like, oh, there's this sound world out there that's fascinating, and then combining that with all the jazz improvisation that I was learning, and learning that there's a way to put all this together, and there are people that are putting this together. So I don't feel like it's coming out of nowhere. I mean, this is what free jazz is. Free jazz is very, very much on these parameters.
It is. And that's a genre I've never really gotten into, probably because as much as I love dissonance, something is warm and comforting for me about structure.
And that's the difference between, though, what I'm giving you and what free jazz doesn't give you, is that you already know the structure before I start. You know that you're going to hear some kind of unification because I've set up the parameters to be, here's a beginning and here's an end.
How about I ask you to do it in A minor, because that's my favorite key.
Okay, now I'm going to break this down, though.
Okay.
Which A minor do you want? Do you
I
want
only
a
know
natural minor? Do you want
the one with all the white keys?
Okay, so A natural minor. Okay. You want A mixolydian. That's what I would call it.
I haven't learned my modes yet. Sorry.
Okay.
I know
Actually, it's Aeolian because it's A minor, so it's Aeolian.
I know they exist. But,
yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm getting really nerdy on you, but that's okay.
No, I like it. It's good for me too. But I want you to put a B major in there somewhere, even though it doesn't belong.
Who says that B major doesn't belong with A minor? Come on. Works beautifully.
I've never actually tried it, but maybe I should. I want you to make it in 5/4.
Okay. I need a speed.
A speed.
Yeah, I mean, or
105 BPM.
Huh?
105 BPM.
Oh, okay. That's getting too exact. No. I need. Let's use slow walking
medium
tempo. Yeah, like a walking tempo, like something that. So we're talking about like a take 5-ish, like speed.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Speaking of things in 5/4, that would that would be the thing.
I mean, I'm gonna go cliche, even though I'm not going to give you cliche. Well, and you may not even feel it in 5/4. It's just something that you've just given me that parameter. That doesn't mean you're going to actually feel something that feels like 5/4.
Well, that, first of all, I'm a bass player, so I will be counting. But I think that is awesome. If you see, I can learn so much from you as a musician. To learn to write something in an odd time signature where the average listener doesn't realize it because the groove is so strong is a cool skill set to have.
Or maybe you don't feel it in 5/4 because I'm not making that obvious. But that's a structure that I'm using and to guide what I'm making on the fly. So Aeolian with a B major chord. We want it medium tempo. We're going to keep it at 2 to 4 minutes. You want 5/4. See, I normally don't give that parameter. I don't give the parameter of that because I find that giving time signatures like that is too confusing.
Oh.
It's much better. So this is the way that I set the parameters is as if they are a complete non-musician. But that's okay because you are a musician. And so the other thing that I would say is, so we've decided now, do you want the tempo to change at all, or do you just want it to be steady?
Let's do steady, because in my brain, I'm thinking I would love to play along with this and put a bass track with it.
Do you want it? Okay. And the other thing that I do is I give a set of pictures. So I want you to kind of like give me an idea of like, do you want it to start with a little activity and get more? Do you want to start with a lot and bring it down and bring up more? Do you want, so let's just kind of figure out like, man, where is this conversation going to go?
This is awesome. How about this? Start, and you know what? Neither of us had any idea it was going to go this direction, and that is why it's fun. How about start big, bring it down, finish big?
That's easy. That's an ABA form. Which, speaking of which, do you want to hear something? Do you want to hear an earworm?
Yes.
That's you want something that your brain can catch on to. It's not just randomness. You do want something that your brain can catch on to.
But yes,
this is actually easier than what I set up my parameters with my game.
Shame on me. I got to be more creative.
Yeah, you do. Which is the reason why you need to play my card game.
You know what?
Like I feel like I should sell this set of cards just for people to just like, okay, here's a card game. Here you go. Learn how to do this. Just
I'm going to have you back and we'll play the game when I have you back.
Yeah, let's do that.
right, let's get back to specifically beautiful pianos. You mentioned the word crowdfunding, but you didn't go into detail. And this is the part where I would like you to go into detail. So tell us about the crowdfunding and the beautiful piano.
This is not the first crowdfunding I've done. Normally it's done for a specific concert project or it's done for recording. I decided to go ahead and treat this as let's just get real with people. Everyone wants more freedom. And I think a lot of artists, and I think anybody that wants to actually have any kind of business or wants to kind of like start something, it's kind of like, well, what do I need? What do I need to really get going? And one of the big things I realized was, in order for me to take that next step, the piano has got to be in my name. So literally the crowdfunder right now is called the PMP Project, Pay My Piano. That literally is what it's called. I am not hiding it from anybody. Every cent that you are sending me that comes to me is going to help pay for this piano, and it's going to help get it moved over the next 2 to 3 years. And the thing that I share with everybody else is the way that you get to share this journey is I'm going to literally share the music I make on pianos and keyboards. That is what you get, whether it's recordings of the past or whether I create something like what we just did, or you ask for a bundle or you want a Zoom concert, whatever. It's I'm making the music for you. And if you're doing something that's a request oriented, it's going to be from that instrument that you're paying for, which is it's a 2018 Boston. I actually bought it new. Do not know the exact model, but Bostons are basically Steinway designed, but made by Kauai. One of the beautiful things about this piano is it's a studio grand. A lot of people get baby grands and then they think grands and they forget about the studio grand. The studio grand exists because exactly what it means. These were instruments designed for New York small apartments. They were designed to fit into small apartments, but not give up. Like you don't have to lay harps sideways on each other, or you don't have to have an upright. You still get to keep the brilliance and the warmth of a major concert grand, but it can fit into a studio. So instead of it's not 3.5 feet and it's not 9 feet, they tend to be between 5.5 to 6.5 feet long. Mine is about 5 and I think I measured it at 5 and 10.5 inches. And it has a titanium plate. So when you look inside of it, it's like gold and silver. And then there's this walnut beautiful inlay. So it's a black instrument on the back, but when you look inside, you get all these different layers of wood inside. So it's gorgeous. And had I tried to get something used, I wouldn't have been able to get a loan. But because it was brand new, I was able to get a loan and get a decent interest rate. But yeah, I wanted this paid off. And then of course, COVID,
Yep.
It's just that's the answer for everything now. I just feel like it's COVID. Yeah, COVID came along, but yeah, I mean, I think that to get real with people, it's like if you really really want to help musicians, it's like ask them, what do you need? And it's like, well, I need this. And I think that a lot of us are really afraid to answer, like, what do you need? It's not I need $10,000. It's no, what is the thing that you need? Well, I need a piano that's paid off. I mean, I have the piano, I just need to be paid off. So that way I'm free of that burden. Sometimes it's, well, I need a place to stay for a month while I'm trying to do this project here. If you never ask, you never know, which, it's kind of like the next spot in my life. It's like after I stopped teaching, it's like a lot of people are like, well, what are you going to do? And it's like, I'm going to be a nomadic creative for a year and a half, because I don't know where I want to settle next and I have no time to look. So why do I need to worry about that? I don't have a partner. I've got a cat. I'm really in a state of let's use this freedom right now while I have it to make a life shift. I mean, I'm not doing anything that tons of artists haven't done before me. I mean, some of my favorite authors and musicians write about these moments where they're just on the road and they just keep going for a while until they figure out, okay, This is where I'm settling. This feels right.
How do we help you to pay for your piano?
I have a Plum Fund crowdfunder. So it's a Plum Fund account, and it literally is underneath Josh Bradford Pay My Piano Project. I think that's literally what the header is under, and that's what it's all going to be. You know, the absolute end date goal for me is February 14th. Of course, I would love to get it done before then. You get everything from a you know, I think the levels start at like 5 tracks, 2 that are released, 3 that aren't, to signed CDs, to, like I said, to bundles, to getting pieces written for you, to getting, you know, little videos. It's just, you look at the stuff. It's a ton of fun, and I want to have fun doing this, and I want it to be like something that you're kind of going to get stuff before everybody else is going to know about it. I didn't buy this piano till I was 40. I've been playing on other people's pianos and a keyboard, and it's just funny that I was trained as a pianist playing on Steinways like all through college, and yet at 25, all of a sudden, I had no piano in my house. And that was just ridiculous. For 15 years, I lived without a real piano. So, I mean, I love keyboards, but they're not the same as having a real piano in your house.
They're not.
And I did think about the upright, you know, scenario. I was going to get, you know, I looked at a lot of people's pianos that they were wanting to give away, and I'm like, no. I don't want to do all this work. I want to actually go to a piano store. I want to go to a Steinway. I want to go to a, you know, whatever. And I want to pick out the one I want. That's the journey I'm on right now, is let's just pay for my piano. And that way that helps me get a little bit more financially free to think about this next this wandering creative, you know,
Yep.
with wherever his piano will go.
So we're having this conversation in December, but this episode is going to be released on Friday, January 28th.
Yeah.
That means, dear listener, you have 2 weeks to help Josh get that piano in his name. We have 2 weeks to get it done. If you've ever thought about supporting an independent musician in whatever way, if you buy their CDs, albums, t-shirts, this is kind of like that. Only you don't get to keep the piano. Josh does, but you get to keep the cool music he makes with it.
Yeah.
When you support this project. So give it a thought.
I don't hear about many people doing this. Like, I really think about it. It's like, I wish more artists would ask me, like, what is your money actually going to? You know, and I think it would be interesting to just be honest and say, I need to pay for my cello. I need to pay for my violin. I need to pay for my, you know, it's like, some of these instruments are like mine's only 20,000 and I've already paid half of it. But I mean, imagine some of these cellos that are like, you've got to have major insurance on. And I'm just like, you know, unless you have a benefactor, how the hell do you pay for that thing? I think this is that. Yeah. Crowdfunding can be for anything, guys. I just want to remind artists all the time. It's like, it doesn't matter what your project is. You just have to communicate it.
Yeah. And
know exactly what you want with that one project. Don't try to do 3 or 4 things with it. Just say, no, it's piano. Everything's piano.
And it's not unreasonable to ask.
No. Most things that we think are unreasonable are not. We're just scared to ask because we've been trained to not. We've been trained to not ask for things that we want. If I'm going to tell people to do it, I have to live it. So
that's very true.
I have a Spotify, so find Josh Bradford on Spotify. I am the only Josh Bradford on Spotify. I'm going to be having and I think that by the end of January, I will have a new website release. I'm actually working with a web designer, so there will be a new joshbradfordmusic.com to check out. Basically, it's just, and I say this not just for me, I'm talking about all your friends that are musicians, all your friends that are artists, filmmakers, business owners, whatever. The best thing you can do, and it doesn't take any money, go to their social media and follow them. Get on their email list. I mean, if these are people that you want to support, the best thing you can do is like, at least let us share our journey with you. And if at some point you don't want to be a part of that journey, we're going to respect that and you can unsubscribe. But for a little while, go on the journey with us. You know, this isn't about money. This is about knowing that I think it comes from what's been a big push at the end of the year with a lot of organizations, but also with churches and stuff. You know, I've been hearing it for the last 6 weeks is, you know, stewardship. You know, what are you going to give to this church? What are you going to give to this organization? And a lot of people just are consistently caught up on the money thing. And it's like, hey, can you help me with this instrument? Hey, can you house me for a week? Hey, can you set me up for a month while I'm doing this project in your town? You know, all of those things. Hey, I'm going to need some miles. Do you have any extra miles? These are not necessarily money things. Hey, I love coffee. Get me coffee. Pay for my coffee every day. You know, that's another big thing that I've seen with a lot of artists is like, just buy me a cup of coffee and you get a sketch or something. So there's all kinds of ways to support people. And a lot of it is not money driven, believe it or not. So we got to make money, but some of that stuff is like, actually, we don't need the money. We just need these things actually taken care of. And if we have these things taken care of, we'll worry about the money.
And that was much more eloquently said than I possibly could say it. So that makes this a good place to stop. Thanks, Josh. And
hey, thank you, Mike. This has been wow. We went places I didn't know we were going to.
We did. Well, you know what? I'm going to have you back, and then we'll go more places.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks again to Josh Bradford for talking to me. I thought that his composition that he improv for this was outstanding, and I really hope you enjoyed it too. I also really hope that you decide to subscribe to this podcast on the platform of your choice. Our next episode is with a gentleman that I've known for over, 20 years. More than 20 years. Stick around for the next episode of the You Could Be My Aramis podcast.